You're listening to Pop This, the podcast where two women talk about everything pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen and Andrea Warner.
So I follow Man Repeller, which is this
I do too.
famous blog.
Yeah.
And one of the things they asked this week was, is getting dressed only satisfying if other people see it? Like, have you all been getting dressed
100%.
in quarantine?
Well, I have worn a bra
no.
3 times this week, which is the most number of times I've worn a bra in the last 10 weeks. And, or 11, I don't know where we're at right now. But, it has felt okay. But I also like that it's still a choice. I mean, I know it's always a choice technically, but like, you know, sort of society, blah, 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 expectations of where my boobs are going to sit, blah, blah, blah. Just, you know, and also just keeping them supported because back problems. But, yeah, I have been dressed more this week than I ever have in the last 11 weeks. And it has felt unusual, but nice.
I have thought about that because of that TV show, again, where all my life lessons come from, The Last Man on Earth. Did anyone watch any of that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
With Will Forte. Yeah. And just that idea that, you know, if the apocalypse happens, like, I just would imagine that you could just go looting, right? It's not even called looting then when there's nobody, is it? I don't know.
I don't think
When the whole world's collapsed and you're like, oh, I could just grab a wardrobe if I could get into a mall, right? Get in there and grab some Louis Vuitton and some, I don't know, whatever, some Chanel. And would that be what I would parade around in? Or, as I've been doing now, wearing sweatpants all the time? I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I absolutely do not get dressed for nobody, and I don't do makeup for nobody. Like, it's entirely corresponds to how much I'm going to be on a Zoom call on any particular day. And I really
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I really miss
but I think it's all of us are in the media world, and by that I mean, you know, we like to communicate, and you communicate not just with words, but with image and things that we like about ourselves, everything. So it is kind of weird to shut all of that down and sort of think about it in terms of when am I going to use it again.
Yeah, but do you think your personal style is going to change by the time we get out of quarantine and you go back to seeing people? Like, do you think your personal style will be different?
I've decided to dress like a clown from now on, so yes. It's just something new I'm trying out.
Is that a change? Is that different?
So let me know what you think.
Hannah doesn't see you much, so
yeah,
she's not sure if that's a change or not.
I don't know. Is that
no?
Are you doing it
so
right
far,
now? Is this?
I'm in a very ordinary white blouse and some black leggings.
I was going to say, you've got like a sort of Martha Stewart meets Diane Keaton thing going on.
Which is always what I look like. So yeah, I mean.
But Lisa, your style might change because J. Crew is no longer available in Vancouver.
You know what else is not in Vancouver? Gap. So I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to me. I might not go out anymore. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. I think I can still get things delivered. H&M's still around. So for my banal monochromatic look. So cheers to that.
I like the number of times that I've had 3 small physically distanced outdoor gatherings in the last like week or so, or last 2 weeks. One of them I got reasonably sort of gussied up for. One of them I was pretty basic person. And then the third one was like sort of an in-between. 2 out of 3 I put on bras for. So, I mean, I basically, like, if I put on a bra for it, I feel like I have sort of continued to sort of dress up. That's now my standard for dressing up. And did I put on my eyebrows?
Eyebrows are a good question. I wear a bra every day.
Okay.
I find it physically uncomfortable not to. but I have not put on mascara since this began. And I wonder, I kind of feel like I won't go back to that. Like, my days of mascara might be over. Maybe I'll get my eyelashes tinted once I'm comfortable with
I
somebody
gave
putting
up
their face that
mascara
close to
last
mine.
year because I had my eyes, I guess, were like really watery, and I just couldn't find a mascara that would work for me anymore. And I just gave it up. Haven't looked back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about, like,
Overrated.
am I going to ever wear heels again? Like, do I need
Oh God, I forgot
Do
those
I need-
existed. Say that word again. Heels.
heels? Like, am I just
Yeah.
a running shoes person now? Like I haven't?
I had already
Or,
given
like,
up on
I
those
was
a couple
looking
Once
at
the
years
weather
ago.
got good, I switched into Birkenstocks, and it'll be real hard go for me to let go of those ones. I mean,
Yeah.
why?
Or I was
Why?
looking at purses on the internet the other day and thinking, like, what do I need a purse for?
Purses. Purses.
It's totally true. Like I will say, and honestly, I haven't been shopping at home very much. And I think one, obviously, it's because I'm like not going out of the house, but like two, I'm also just kind of like worried about money in the long term. So I have very much curtailed any online shopping that I might have previously done. And then I also was like marveling the other day about how like we organized our front hall closet 4 weeks ago, and it has stayed perfect. And then my friend was like, yeah, because you don't go out. And I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
I haven't achieved anything in terms of like personal like order. It's just that I don't leave my house, and therefore I don't put on a bunch of different shoes.
I find the whole process of these Zooms and Squadcast things disconcerting too, because I don't look at myself anymore. I haven't like looked in a mirror. I can go days. Why would I look? I'm pretty sure it's still me.
Do you ever look in a reflected metal kitchenette to see? Yeah.
If there's, say, a dinosaur.
If my
behind
glass
you.
of water is like kind of starts to jiggle a bit, I might look behind me, and if there happened to be a mirror there, I might frighten myself.
I love
You know?
to watch my reflection shake in a dinosaur paw print. It's such a good
It is a
look.
good
It's
look.
so
Best
beautiful. It's so beautiful. Was that my most elegant segue? I think it was. I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And we're so excited to have our very special guest, Hannah McGregor, joining us today on Pop This. I'm so excited to talk about Jurassic Park.
No, this is we
Thank
always
God.
choose to talk about things whenever we want. Sometimes there's anniversaries involved.
Yeah.
I mean, not always.
Nope.
I mean, I feel like watching Jurassic Park felt like just the right movie in our pandemic days, but I also understand this is Hannah's one of her like all-time favorite movies, so I am so curious about where we're gonna go
Me too.
and why and what. All the W's.
Top 5.
It's in my top 10,
5 all-time
I will
movies.
say. I
Wow.
love this movie so much. But
Oh, I love this movie too. I
Perfect.
like
Every
this,
moment
like,
of it
this
is
is going to
perfect.
be an episode of absolutely no drama at all, except that whatever the dinosaurs provide. Unless Andrea Gin doesn't like it.
I didn't watch it when it first came out. I think I only watched it for the first time like a few years ago.
Oh.
And so it's one of those things where like I don't have that sort of nostalgia for this movie or any history with it. So I feel a little bit indifferent towards it. I don't think it's a bad movie, but I don't know.
Incorrect.
Zombies
I
are
don't
coming
know.
for you.
yeah, like
I'm just dying to hear Hannah talk about this.
Mhm.
I am too, yeah. I will. Can I just reveal one tiny thing?
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody else.
That's why I want to reveal one tiny thing,
And
and then it's just Hannah's show for the rest of the show. When I was in Hawaii last year, we went on like this like boat tour of the coast where they filmed the Jurassic Park.
I
Like,
went on that same thing.
Oh my
I
God.
went there.
Yeah,
but I was in an ATV in the grass
oh wow.
on the field where they're running.
Oh my God, That's amazing.
That's really dangerous.
But they play the music, which I am such a big fan of that music moment and the score. And so as we neared it, they started playing the music, and I burst into tears as we came up to the coast, because I did not know that's how strongly I felt about this movie until that particular moment. And yeah.
There is a spot in Universal Studios Florida where the Jurassic Park area bridges directly onto the Harry Potter area. And there's a literal bridge in between them. And if you turn in one direction, it's the big Jurassic Park gate. And if you turn in the other direction, it's Hogwarts. And I'm standing in the middle. Like, if you walk 2 steps one way, you hear the Harry Potter theme. And if you walk 2 steps the other way, you hear the Jurassic Park theme. And I just like stood in the middle of that bridge, just like, yes, this is here forever.
All
I'll
up
never
until
leave.
this very moment, you thought you were a very unique individual. Then you found out, no.
Oh, no, I didn't. What? You think I thought liking Harry Potter and Jurassic Park made me interested?
I would not have necessarily put the two together, but I see many others have. So that's... Is John Williams does right? Harry Potter as well? Mm-hmm. Oh, because just to assume he's done every single movie score that any of us have ever liked. So
it's either him or Michael Giacchino,
yeah,
and that's it.
Or that Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer. You're right. And then there's that other, oh my gosh, the Italian guy. oh yeah. No, I know who you're talking about.
He was in Oingo Boingo.
Yeah.
Danny Elfman.
Danny Elfman.
Oh, I didn't know Danny Elfman was
Let's just say Oingo Boingo some more.
Oingo.
Oingo Boingo is hard to say.
Okay.
Let's talk about dinosaurs.
Jurassic Park.
Yes. Background, Lisa.
Jurassic Park.
You have to say it more. Jurassic
Welcome
Park.
to Jurassic Park. In his dodgy, sometimes I'm Scottish, sometimes I'm English, who knows. Okay, Jurassic Park is a 1993 science fiction adventure film directed by Steven Spielberg and produced by Kathleen Kennedy and Gerald R. Molen. It is the first installment in the Jurassic Park franchise and is based on the 1990 novel of the same name by Michael Crichton and a screenplay written by Crichton and David Kopp. The film is set on the fictional island of Isla Nublar, located off Central America's Pacific coast near Costa Rica. Do you want me to read the rest?
No, I think that's fine. I can do the synopsis. Paleontologist Alan Grant, played by Sam Neill, and Ellie Sattler, played by Laura Dern, and mathematician Ian Malcolm, played by Jeff Goldblum, and his chest, are among a select group chosen to tour an island theme park populated by dinosaurs created from prehistoric DNA. While
It's so hard for me not to correct this synopsis as you're going. I'm like, she's not a paleontologist,
I agree with you completely.
Paleobotanist. That's incorrect.
But can also set legs. So that was an interesting development.
Anyway, she's great with poop.
Yeah.
While the park's mastermind billionaire John Hammond, played by Richard Attenborough, assures everyone that the facility is safe, they find out otherwise when various ferocious predators break free and go on the hunt. Hannah, of course, correct any of that.
Rude. Yeah, I mean, various things. They're not invited to tour it. They're there to sign off on its safety so that the investors will feel comfortable moving forward with it. I think that description also attributes too much agency and malevolence to the dinosaurs.
Yes,
we're just
agreed.
doing what dinosaurs do. They're not like, oh, we're out and we're on the hunt. It's just like, there are dinosaurs here now.
Agreed.
And maybe they'll eat you.
Agreed. Well,
did you read the book as well, Hannah?
No, not a fan of books.
That I was not expecting either.
AG, do you want to read Hannah's bio?
Sure. Hannah McGregor is an assistant professor in publishing at SFU, where her research and teaching focuses on the links between publishing and social change, from the role podcasts might play in expanding public engagement with research, to systematic barriers to access in the Canadian publishing industry. She is the host of the podcast Secret Feminist Agenda and Witch Please, and has appeared on Pop This as a guest many times, most recently stepping in as a co-host for our episode on Schitt's Creek when Andrea Warner was sick.
Which was very enjoyable.
I have 7 points of dissension on Hannah's bio. Is that, no, I'm kidding. It's fine.
Where's the part about I don't like
I felt
books?
like I was.
I don't like
She
books.
does not
She
like
Should have
is
added that.
publishing and the publishing industry.
I felt like it was going to end, but there was like so many ands to what Hannah does. I didn't pace my sentence
you keep
very
thinking
well.
that bio's
It's
gonna
also-
be
And
over.
she loves sunset walks.
So Hannah, please
No.
illuminate for us. Why do you love this movie so much?
Oh, I love it so much. You know, so the primary argument that I have made elsewhere about why this movie is incredible is that it is it has the potential to be read as a feminist film. And I'm not going to make any claims about that being Spielberg's design, though I think he might have accidentally stumbled into feminism. Because as I was watching it last night for maybe the 200th time, I was like, oh, this is a Frankenstein rewrite. And Frankenstein is a feminist story. And so I think he might have accidentally made a feminist film by basing his film on Frankenstein and not realizing that that brought a feminist message with it. And the feminist message of Frankenstein is, you know, Mary Shelley critiquing a sort of masculinist notion of creation that puts the possibility, the sort of sheer, right? Creation is an act of sheer will. John Hammond says that idea of creation, that the impact of what I do on the people around me is completely irrelevant. What matters is my capacity to assert my individual will within the world and make whatever I want just to prove that I can, which is this fundamentally white, imperialist, masculinist perspective on creation and also on just the relationship an individual ought to have to the world. Frankenstein and Jurassic Park both point out that that is an inherently destructive and violent perspective. But whereas in Frankenstein, it's Frankenstein's monster that ultimately demonstrates to us the sort of violence of that, in Jurassic Park, it's the dinosaurs themselves. And the possibility of the feminist reading of the film gets massively amplified by the fact that the dinosaurs are really specifically pointed out as being entirely women. And so it's not just these terrible men fantasizing about their capacity to extend their will into the natural world limitlessly. It's also the fact that they're like, oh, we created a bunch of women. And women are inherently controllable. They are easily dominated by us. And you know what women definitely can't do without men? Reproduce. According to the logic of John Hammond and the other men running this park, women are not capable of creation. Men are capable of creation, and women are the stuff they create. And so it's not just that these monstrous female figures turn around and literally consume half of the men involved. It's also that they upset the entire logic of Jurassic Park by seizing the ability to create. And the only men who are allowed to survive are men who agree to take on roles as sex objects or nurturers.
Wow. Did it occur to anyone, just quickly, tangent here, being that this is 1993, does it occur to anyone that maybe Russell Brand saw this movie at a very impressionable time?
He based his whole character on Malcolm.
Yeah, all of a sudden the shirt open, the intellectualism, that sort of quasi-feminist sort of I get you, you know, anyway, just.
And I love accruing ex-wives. Yeah.
Right?
Love to accrue ex-wives.
Love to accrue
Always
ex-wives.
love
Yeah,
the
the future
Mrs. X.
Miss X, yeah.
And just
Love kids.
lounge
Got
on
tons
a
of them.
table.
Yeah, and that lounging on the table. Honestly. Okay, anyway, that was my side thought there.
That's fair. Hannah, I love this reading of the film. It makes me so happy. I feel like this is, and I do think it's entirely an accident. I don't think Spielberg would be classified as an inherently feminist man.
No.
But
But I do think
Oh,
there's
I agree
something there in the
completely. Yeah.
Frankenstein thing. And I was particularly thinking about this as I was rewatching it last night because the Roger Ebert review that critiqued the villain role and claimed that the villain is
Wayne Knight.
the character. I'm
The
so
guy-
terrible with names.
yeah.
What's his name?
Newman.
Wayne Knight's character.
But yeah,
Dennis.
Newman is. Yeah, no, it's Newman from
his name
Seinfeld. Dennis in this
Sorry,
movie.
yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. Yeah, Ebert was like, oh, he's the villain and he's a bad villain. And I was like, he's not the villain. He's a like precipitating incident. The villain
Yeah.
is John
Yeah, I feel
Hammond.
like Ebert has absolutely misread this movie. Like the villain is like Newman. Sorry, I'm gonna call him Newman, but it's Dennis. But Dennis is definitely or something. I don't know.
Is it Dennis?
It's Wayne Knight. I
You put
was
it in
calling
the
him Newman.
outline, all the
Literally,
names. Where is
Andrea
it?
has written it down. Yes, Dennis.
Yeah,
Um,
Dennis. Okay.
Dennis.
Cool.
Dennis is like
Oh, yeah, I could
just
also
like
look at
this
that, huh?
laughable sort of like side sort of cartoony villain as like one of the elements of sort of comedic distraction and like sort of just gluttony. Like he mostly is a commentary about like how fat people are evil. That's like a whole other he's like a whole
mostly a
other
fat
side
joke.
piece to this
Yeah.
film. But like the absolutely John and his sort of really egotistical, like he brings these scientists there, but only because he's like, I'm going to impress these scientists so much. They're not going to possibly be able to refute or suggest any kind of like critique. Like John cannot be critiqued because he thinks money is everything. And he thinks that he is everything.
Now wait.
He spared no expense. He says it over and over again. It's his argument. This can't possibly be a failure.
Yeah.
But did you
spared no
notice the
expense.
the photo that Dennis has on his computer monitor? Is Robert Oppenheimer?
I didn't.
Oh, I didn't notice
Yeah,
that, but
it's
that's
sitting on
absolutely
the-
brilliant.
It's taped right onto his
that
monitor.
is-
Oh, wow.
the film might not be deliberately feminist, but it is deliberately a critique of unbridled scientific
Yes.
and technological discovery.
Yeah.
So the Oppenheimer reference makes a lot of sense there. And Frankenstein is part of that whole tradition. And I watched this with a friend of mine about 6 months ago. It was the first time she'd ever seen it. And she was like, oh, I feel like all of the Silicon Valley dudes watched this movie and got the wrong moral from it, because the Jurassic Park is built on the logic of go fast.
But
and
in
break
the
stuff.
book, apparently I was reading that the character of John is much more evil, like basic villain evil.
Oh,
whereas
okay.
Steven Spielberg wanted him to be more kindly, and some people have said because Steven Spielberg saw himself in him. Which was a person that wanted to create a beautiful place of wonder and miracles and take people on a journey of seeing something incredible, which I mean does kind of fit with his other films.
Well, I mean, he did.
Yeah, he's
known for moving
yes.
these movies, like using technology to make his movies, and sort of like now it's the way people make movies. But and so that was a lot of people have written things about how Steven Spielberg, there's a parallel between him and Hammond.
John. Yeah, I agree. I see that too, and I can see why he didn't want to make him super evil. And I think it in the long run, in watching it, I think his evilness, if that's the right word, is more interesting because it's more subtle. It's a hubris, which is a word I like and never use. But
He has loads of hubris and millions and billions of dollars that sort of, I think, have bought him that particular quality.
Yeah, and that hubris is really key, right? Not only that he thinks that he's going to be fine, but that he is so convinced that what he is doing is for other people.
Yes.
Like he has really talked himself into believing his monologue about the flea circus. Like he has talked himself into believing that he does this for the children and not for himself. And it's like he doesn't necessarily want wealth the way the lawyer does, but he wants adoration.
Oh
He
yeah,
wants
that's
to be
it. A god. That's it right
and
there.
that point that Ian Malcolm says, where he's like, you don't have respect for this because you didn't have to earn any of it, is really key.
That's the thing. Like, and Malcolm, like, for as much as he's, you know, a little bit of an idiot, he's also a little bit creepy, a little bit of an idiot. I mean, it says everything about me as a 14-year-old that I thought he was very attractive.
Well, he is attractive. I mean, it's a pretty bizarre role. It is.
It's so luxurious.
So
oh my God.
It is a lot.
Yeah. But I mean, he has so many good salient points, and like he's right over and over again. And I really appreciate, and I mean, that's one of the other, like, sort of, I take a bit of, I don't know, a lot of disagreement actually with the way a lot of the reviews that talk about the film at the time talked about how underdeveloped the characters are. And I fully disagree with that entirely. I think that, like, Ellie and Alan and Ian are actually, and the kids even too, we know what each of them is about. Like, we know what they prize above all else, which is, like, respecting the science, respecting the nature, respecting intellect. They prize all of these things. The kids are also obsessed with these things. Like, one is a computer hacker programmer. One is, you know, obsessed with Alan's books. And, I mean, everyone in this film except John and the lawyers really respects intellect. It's wild.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's one of the best parts about this movie is that all of the heroes are scientists, and they don't have, and this is, we can maybe talk a little bit about the Jurassic World movies towards the end, but
yes,
they're very bad. And one of their many, many failings is that they have replaced these, like, really interesting, rich protagonists with, like, just generic superhero action.
Who is watching Jurassic Park and thinking
and
the like Australian hunter guy should be the star? That's what the new movies are.
Not even if the Australian hunter. No, absolutely not. If the Australian hunter guy was the star, it would be fascinating.
Yeah, but
those tiny little shorts, and he would just be like walking around talking.
I liked
to
his
the
character,
dinosaurs.
but it was like I got who he was, and that's who Chris Pratt kind of plays without any sort of suave.
Chris Pratt is like that character with all of his interesting edges sanded off. And it's just that, like, in the new movies, Chris Pratt can punch a guy and he gets knocked out. And in these movies, nobody's punching a guy out. Nobody punches a dinosaur in the face. Nobody pulls off a remarkable feat of athleticism. Like, you know, they just barely manage to survive unless they don't. And the skill set that allows them to survive is knowledge.
Yeah.
Knowledge and respect. Knowledge paired
what
with
this movie does
respect.
for me, and it's probably the same reason I like Steven Spielberg movies, is because he's able to, for better for worse, transport himself into that child we all were. And then, like, all of his stories, they start with the wonder, and then they move into, I've got to grow up now and see this for what it is. It's a problem. So the dinosaurs at first, we see the scientists are like, oh my God, all my theories. Did they run in packs? Were they like birds? Did they make sounds?
Yeah.
They're so in awe, like all of the stuff they've been researching and theorizing about. There it is. And then, oh, shoot, I don't get to be like just a kid anymore, all in wonder. This is practical now. It's not a good idea. And it's the same thing with E.T., right? And it's the same thing with watching Indiana Jones, or it's the, it's so many of Steven Spielberg's movies, and even Jaws, right? It's the sense that you've got the marine biologists and you've got the shark hunter, and they're like super like, this is gonna be great, and then, oh shoot, this is not so great after all. We're stuck out here. We've really got to kill this shark, and it's like, okay.
I like the wonder part. I think the wonder part is, like, key. That was actually one of the main things that I was watching this time. And when you see Alan and Ellie and Ian, like, enter the dinosaur, like, the grasslands for the first time, and you see them see the dinosaurs and they understand, like, oh my God, we're seeing dinosaurs. And if you just watch, like, their faces and how their faces react to everything, and you know that this is a green screen situation, but they do such a beautiful job of conveying and I really felt like I was in it this time. I don't know if I'm extra susceptible right now to oh no, I know I am. Just wanting to be somewhere else, like escape, wanting to be somewhere else.
No,
I felt like I was in that field with them, and I watched like Sam Neill's eyes fill with tears, but he doesn't like let them fall, and he like sort of collapses over himself because he just can't even believe what he's seeing. And Ellie, her face, like Laura Dern's face, does this like complete, like I actually think that this is a beautifully acted film as well, in a way that I perhaps like definitely didn't appreciate when I was a child, but have only really come to appreciate in the last like 5 years.
Well, that's the thing about the summer blockbuster. A lot of times those are kind of not great movies because the acting's not great. It's summer. But when you do summer blockbuster plus some really great actors, then it takes on almost that weird way, like to go back to Harry Potter, how they found every Shakespearean actor in England and stuck them in this children's movie, right? And you're just like, why is this so good? Because they're all Shakespearean actors.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah, or oscillates wildly between being really good and being really terrible, depending on
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Laura Dern in particular, like the scene where she comes out of the building, she's had to go to restart the power, and she sees Alan across the way, and the scene where she runs for him is like, I get goosebumps every time I watch it. And there isn't even any dialogue. It's an action scene. Like it's her running and like jumping over a lot. And it's so moving because you feel her fear and her despair and what a relief it is to finally be reunited with her partner. Like the movie really takes these sort of action scenes and
it does a lot with them. And I think even like in terms of character development, which is why I would agree with you, Andrea. There's no reason to suggest these are flat characters. I mean, it is a bit forced that Laura Dern is hoping that, Alan will somehow take to kids, which I don't necessarily think by the end of the film. I think he's a practical man. He knows what he needs to do. But I was thinking about that scene where little Timmy's in the car and it's flipped down and he says, I threw up. And he's like, don't really know why that's an issue, but he seems to be alarmed by it. So that's okay. You threw up. We'll just move on, right? But it was very, very sweet to stick some sort of like child humiliation to this man that has no idea what a child humiliation is. No sense at all.
No sense. I am not convinced. I saw this in the outline. I am not. My read of Ellie and Alan's relationship around children is not that Ellie like wants Alan to love kids. It's that she knows he hates them and thinks it's funny. Like, I think in those early scenes, like she lets him terrorize a child for multiple minutes with that claw at the beginning. And she just like laughs at him. And then when she's trying to like get him in the car with the kids, like, I think it's just because she knows he'll be uncomfortable and she thinks that's funny. Like, I don't see much in the way of her being like, it matters to me. Like, yeah, she has that one line where she says, like, at some point she would like to have a kid.
But isn't that the sort of like, sub-theme of this movie, too, is about birth and rebirth and the family? Because that's such a big Steven Spielberg thing, too, the family. Like, oh, my God, John sacrificed his grandchildren for this project. It's like, all right, see ya. And I think that is one of those things that is very troubling to Steven Spielberg, because my favorite Steven Spielberg movie is Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And when he says now, have you guys all seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Yes, I love that movie.
No.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not really a Spielberg
I really
fan.
love that movie, but then I shouldn't say because I was going to give a spoiler. Okay, well, all right.
I might watch it at some point, but it's okay. Fun. It's a 35-year-old film. You can spoil it.
Yes. Okay, so it's more than that.
It's my fault that I haven't seen it yet, so don't worry.
So Richard Dreyfuss is the one that's being connected by the aliens, right? And at the end of the movie, and he's got 3 children. This is a big part of this movie. He's married with 3 kids. And at the end of the movie, he's all, see ya, and he goes off on the spaceship.
Peace out.
Steven Spielberg didn't have kids then when he made it. And he said, now I'm like, oh my God, I just sent that guy off into space with a kind of adios.
Just
So
the
that's-
freewheeling.
But I think that this sense of like I think he likes that family sense. But I hear what you're saying, Hannah, because it wasn't as overt, but there did seem to be some sort of I hope he starts to like kids kind of feel. I felt sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been much of an auteur reader. Like, so I don't usually use the author as a frame for thinking about what a text is saying. But I do think that there's a really strong theme of care there. There's a line where Ellie says to John Hammond, "You can't think your way through this, you have to feel it." And so that is absolutely like a really key theme, is that you have to care about the consequences of your actions on other people. And so we watch Alan, who, you know, seems at least to be somebody who is interested in the science and the possibilities, but very quickly is thrust into a position where he has to prioritize care over anything else. And that is the sort of thing that John also has to arrive at, is that care is the thing that matters. And the few characters who like understood from the beginning that you should care about the consequences of your actions are also like the characters who are proven correct. But that, I mean, that's another way I think that you can read it as a feminist film, right? That it is the ethics of the film is an ethics of care. That is the value that is being held up as what you should prioritize above all other things. You should prioritize caring for others.
I think as well, like, I mean, in terms of, like, I do think that there is a reading of the movie that does sort of, it sets up that Ellie and Alan are together. They are in a relationship, and they do have, by having that conversation about like her liking children, or at least liking a conversation about children, and him sort of being like, no, you know, it gets in the way of my bones, basically. And
Baffled. Oh, that's funny.
well, it just, I mean, we have that set up as a framework in the beginning.
like an erection.
But we get in the way, like we have that as a framework to begin, and then we see like at the very end we see the kids asleep on his shoulders, and they're all cuddled up, and they've formed their own sort of like, you know, trauma family unit in this moment. And the eye contact between him, and I think again, beautiful acting between Laura Dern and Sam Neill, is like they share this very long look in which they've survived this like wild thing, and something has come out of it, which is both of them have this next level understanding of what really sudden parenthood would look like, because both of them have had to function as parents sort of these two children in this moment. And I think I do think that there is a reading of that, like and that's what like the sort of,
except for the fact that the little girl has a crush on him.
Yeah, Lisa, you're the only one of us who has kids, right? How often do you have to save them from dinosaurs?
Well, it's been more often than I care to think about, but
oh,
but I mean,
wow.
yeah,
Okay,
it's
so
very,
this is a
I
realistic
say this
representation
as
of
someone who has
parenting.
recently watched the third film in the trilogy, at which point, you know, Ellie and Alan have been broken up for a number of years, and Ellie has two
No, I've
children
seen that.
with someone
Yeah.
else, and they still care about each other. But like this was seemingly sort of like you know, at the very least, we can infer that it was the division between them. That she wanted children, he did not, and this is where their lives have taken them. And they're still friends, but that's it. So I think that there is like, and I mean, I think when I was younger, it would have I remember it bothering me a little bit more that we had yet another situation where this cool, incredible feminist scientist is positioned as like, because she's a woman, she's got to care about kids. But what I liked about the movie is that they stick this dude who hates children with the kids for the film.
Yeah.
And I remember that feeling also like a subversion of the typical care trope as a kid.
And she has to go do all the big saving, right?
She has to do all the heroics.
The heroics. Yeah.
She has to do all the action stuff. Her fondness for children is like largely theoretical because you almost never see her interact with them.
And also she had a very practical,
and it's
those khaki shorts and those work boots. Very, very
so
practical look as opposed to the embarrassing
boots.
new one with the heels and all that.
And compare this also to the new one. So we've got the woman in heels running around on them the entire time. And she is like some sort of like corporate head honcho who is positioned at the beginning of the film as monstrous as a woman because she does not like children. And she has to be corrected through the film. And that it's a really similar dynamic, but having a woman be like, yeah, I like kids just fine, and a man having to learn that like he should also be able to exhibit care is so much more interesting than having a woman be like, I'm not fond of kids, and having the movie be like, wrong. No. It's your only
No, I think
job.
in that way this film ages very well. I don't think I don't think I felt watching it because I saw it when it came out, and I've seen it many, many times since then too. But I never felt like bonking on the head, like we're subverting things. Get it? You know, you don't feel that. You know, it because it organically moves in just the right sort of way, and it all seems to make sense how it all moves along. I felt like I didn't feel any part where I felt
Is this the best Jurassic Park movie?
Oh, of course, yeah. But hold on, AG, you barely talked, and you haven't told us why you're indifferent to it, outside of the lack of nostalgia. So I would just. I
feel bad because I'm hearing all these like really intelligent deep dives into it, and I'm like, I really didn't.
It's because she rejects the initial scientific proposal of being able to take a mosquito out of amber. Because I mean, that's a wild thought.
I watched this movie the way I watch like Indiana Jones. It's like an adventure movie. It was
okay. But how did you feel about the animated DNA strand?
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs.
That was cute.
Would you use frogs to splice the genes? I mean, that's an important question.
I liked the clippy DNA.
What would you have used to fill in the
I found it
gene sequences in the dino DNA?
There's some interesting conversation in the reviews I read around 1993 around this movie about the commercialization and the critique of capitalism in the movie, and how, you know, like there seems to be an attempt to critique how they're monetizing this dinosaur park, but then Spielberg also uses the exact same logo and pretty much the exact same merchandise to market the movie. And so people are like, what's the point of him doing this? Like, what is he trying to say?
Because he is not actually splicing dinosaur eggs.
Similar.
Maybe that for everyone. Yeah, I mean.
That's part of it. Very similar to the Hunger Games in the degree to which the aesthetics of the Capitol were tied up in the promotional campaign, so that you, as a fan of the films, were encouraged to adopt the aesthetics of the sort of monstrously decadent Imperial Center, even though the films made it very clear that those aesthetics were married to a horrifying politics.
Yeah.
Like, it's because even if you take, like, these films are still art, you know, even if they're commercial art, they're still art. And then art plus capitalism always equals some form of disjunction.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I read a very, very, very long piece. In fact, I kept scrolling and thinking, when does this end? All about how important it was that the kind of launching point for the book being successful, for the movie gelling, was the logo. The book wasn't even selling really well when it first came out. The movie was like, people were kind of wishy-washy. I guess they had some test audiences or something. But I think it was Steven Spielberg in this piece who said, we need a logo, which is what he understood was going to be the thing that really sold it to people to want to buy in. And so they went through like you can see this piece, it's quite amazing. They've got all the different incarnations of the logo. And as soon as they got that, people go, oh, I get it. This is the theme park. Dinosaur and I see what you're selling here. You're selling these dinosaurs with the park name, and then it took off, and then the book sold, the movie, all to do with this logo.
And I was reading too about how it's kind of an unfortunate font because it's become kind of synonymous with you know, like it's like in quote unquote like
But that means it
African
worked,
font,
right? That
that
means it
is
worked.
it's like
It's such a bad
but it's
font.
it's like responsible
It was the only
for
thing I was.
that font being known as
It's caveman font.
Yeah.
Isn't that the caveman font?
It's very weird. It's a very weird font. In an otherwise perfect film. I also have to say, speaking of aspects of this film that aged well, I know that we talked about it as being a sort of early example of a CGI filled movie, but its CGI has aged
I'd agree with
lot
that.
better than the CGI
That is true.
of
Yeah.
I completely
Yeah.
agree.
more recent
Yeah.
movies. And I think it's used with a very light touch, and it's used and it's combined with a lot of practical effects. So it's like a combination of CGI and animatronics, so that whenever you're looking at a dinosaur close up, it's animatronics and you only see the CGI dinosaurs from far away. And it almost never takes you out of it.
I almost wish you could see the film in some way, like we were discussing, like the big wonder scene where they first drive up in the Jeep and they see them. Because I knew what movie I was seeing. It was called Jurassic Park, and it was about what if there were real dinosaurs? But wouldn't it be so fun to be able to have sat in this movie and not know what it was about and have that happen? Yes.
So,
Gotcha.
yeah, and Hannah, you have like a whole 20-minute mini-sode on Secret Feminist Agenda about the feminist analysis of Jurassic Park, right?
I do. I go into significantly more detail.
Because on this podcast, we do this. It was so amazing to see dinosaurs.
And amazingly, you say
Right,
that in
every
episode of the
episode.
podcast, whether or not there were
Every
dinosaurs in the
episode.
thing you watched.
It's always amazing that we find dinosaurs.
Yeah. So who else has seen all of the Jurassic
I haven't
Park
seen the
slash
last
Jurassic
Jurassic World. I've seen the first Jurassic World, and I hated it so much.
Okay.
But I don't think I've ever laughed quite as hard as I have in that Jurassic movie
Brag.
when those birds, the pterodactyls,
The pterodactyls. Oh my god.
are
I
released on the. They come into the and they start. I could not stop laughing. The more they picked people up, the more the people ran. The harder. I don't know what happened to me. I think it was a bad film all around. So when that scene happened, it was like I was hurting. My eyes were watering. My everything about, like, honestly, I don't know if they meant for that to be as funny. Probably not.
There's a really funny death at the beginning of the second Jurassic World movie.
Oh,
too.
is there?
I actually recommend the second one is pretty fun. There's a whole extended sort of haunted house sequence that is quite entertaining where some dinosaurs get out.
Oh my god.
Can I just say, though, that I said at the beginning that I felt like it was oddly very prescient with our current pandemic days, because I think one of the longstanding, very fair, jokes and commentaries that came from Jaws was you never want to be the Jaws mayor. The mayor where everyone came to him and said, you've got to close the beach down July 4th.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he said, no, all the businesses need the money. We need to keep it open. And then little Timmy or whatever dies, right?
Yeah.
And then the beaches get closed. And so in this movie, the same thing. Everyone's telling John, like, you should kill the dinosaurs, which really would have saved everybody. I mean, he's just lucky everyone lived, right? So there is...
There's several people did that. The high body count.
Died.
We watched them. Yeah.
So
people that he cares about, though.
People he cares about, I mean. Yeah.
Like,
But he could have this same idea right now that we're living through, which is the kinds of very serious decisions that our leaders and different people in finance and all those are being asked to make, which is, what is more important to you, your money or your human life?
yeah.
Like, honestly, just make a call. Just let us know who you are. That's all we want to know.
It seems like a lot of people have shown their butts on this one. As Samuel L. Jackson says in this film, frequently hold on to your butts. A lot of people in the world have shown us their butts, and I don't like it.
And I don't know if that's just because of you already, likened it with the Frankenstein, which is a very similar story. Just because you can do something, should you? And we're living this right now.
Yeah.
We're living Jurassic Park right now. Without the dinosaurs and the zombies, I recognize, but we are watching our world leaders and individual people telling us who they are about what is most important to them.
Yeah.
Or are we in Living Jaws and we're in the part where they're all on the boat in the middle of the ocean waiting?
Yeah. Like, how are we going to get out of this?
Yeah.
Like, do we have enough chum to catch this
Yeah.
shark?
Yeah.
We don't know, but I'm going to say I don't think any Steven Spielberg's going to answer this particular question at this moment in time, unfortunately.
No, I don't either. But I just felt like it was interesting watching this movie that felt all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is what it feels like right now.
Yeah.
This is a kind of a, they had dinosaur dread and we've got existential dread. Well, real dead people are dying of virus. But you know what I mean? Like for a lot of us who aren't sick or something, it's always there.
Yeah, I am glad there aren't velociraptors right now. I also
that should be the title of this episode, because that's
there are
one of the things when I was
I am glad I was not
when I was Googling Jurassic Park, and you know how Google has those like most asked questions come up in a section. The top question was, is Jurassic Park a true story?
Look, I was watching it again, obviously just a couple nights ago, and I was like, when I was young, I was really like, oh, this seems to check out. Why wouldn't you be able to find mosquitoes with blood in them and extract that DNA? This seems normal. That's totally fine. I understand it's not a true story. No one needs to worry about me. You don't need to put me on a back to school bus or anything. But I'm like, this could, why not?
I saw a comedian.
I mean, that's just what makes it good sci-fi, right? Like, good sci-fi at least feels like when you're watching it, you're like, yeah, sure.
I mean, they gave us a reason so that we could suspend our disbelief for just an hour and a half or 2 hours, actually. This movie was 2 hours. So yeah, for those 2 hours, we're kind of really into that. Yeah, that might matter. This could happen. Like, hey, Barbara Streisand's cloned her dog twice, I think. So. That's not even made up. That's a true fact. She's cloned her dog.
And how many lawyers have those dogs murdered? These
are questions she hasn't really fully told us what's happened.
She has her own underground town in her house. Like, we're not going to ever find out how many lawyers she's murdered with her dogs.
I love that town.
Off topic.
Are we going to get in trouble from Barbara Streisand? No.
Should we be talking
Jurassic
about
Park?
the Al Yankovic song? Yeah. Jurassic Park is frightening in the dark. All the dinosaurs are running
We can't
wild.
sing on this podcast.
Someone turn the lights off in the rain.
You know what? You'd have to edit you out. I know. You're going to get edited out. You're going to, yeah.
And that was a beautiful rendition.
It was a beautiful rendition. We do have to wrap up.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's a great
song.
So,
does Jurassic Park pop?
Like a big claw through your face. It pops.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, right through the jugular.
Yeah.
Gets me every time.
Yeah.
I agree, Hannah. I think it's perfect. It's almost perfect anyways. Outside of long fat joke and real lack of sort of characters and people of color outside of Samuel L. Jackson and B.D. Wong, I think it's perfect otherwise.
Yeah, it's a good song, and it in terms of just a great movie to watch. It's a lot of fun. Like, it doesn't lag. I can't think of a scene where I'm bored.
Yeah.
Like, those movies where you can't figure out when are you going to go pee.
Just
if
keeps
you're
going.
in the theater, since we were reminiscing and nostalgic, you always wait for that scene where you're like, I can pee now. But I don't know if I can't remember when I peed when I first saw it. I don't know if that's not probably a great way to leave this discussion, but that's what I've got.
AG.
It's a fun summer blockbuster movie, and I'm finding out with a lot of things, knowing Hannah, like, she thinks a lot more about things that I don't think about much at all.
We love to leave our episodes in something we recommend. So Hannah, as our guest of honor, would you like to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. Season 5 of She-Ra on Netflix. It's splendid. And it started strong. So this is the reimagining of the 1980s animated series. for a contemporary viewership, show run by Noelle Stevenson, who is an absolutely incredible queer comic artist, perhaps best or originally known for Nimona and then Lumberjanes. So she has a lot of really great sort of queer comic books, and she show runs She-Ra, and she has made it extremely gay. It is also super, super diverse in terms of voice acting cast. Predominantly people of color doing the voice acting for all of the roles, amazing body diversity and the reimagining of all of the princesses. It's like a really beautiful, fresh, contemporary reconception of the show. And they just dropped season 5, which is the final season on Netflix, and the final season is doing such a beautiful job. I'm not done it yet, but it's doing an absolutely beautiful job of bringing all of the sort of themes of the show together. I've cried like 3 times already. Strong recommend. It's a great show.
I love it. Lisa.
Yeah, I am really enjoying season 4 of Insecure. Did I already mention that one?
No, you haven't, but I also am loving it. Oh my God.
So much. I can't tell you how much I love it. It is an unusual experience as well, always getting used to this 1 episode per week schedule.
Yes.
Which I kind of abandoned a long time ago, it seems, with so many series. But I kind of like it. I did it with Better Call Saul. I've done it with quite a few shows. So Insecure, season 4, really stellar. Very worried about Issa and Molly's friendship. Going through a troubled patch right now. But anyway, watch it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I second that. AG.
I've been listening over and over again to this artist called Boniface from Winnipeg. It's pop music, and it's got like an 80s kind of feel to it, and it's a bit of alt rock and a bit of emo thrown in, and it's just like a really super exciting album to listen to, because it's that feeling you get when you hear someone who's really young and super talented, and you know that they're going to be huge in the future. And yeah, I'm just really loving the album. It's
That's
self-titled.
awesome. That's awesome.
Excellent.
I am going to recommend, I've got 2 things that I want to recommend, if that's okay. One, I'd like to, by the time this airs, it'll be like 3 weeks old, but you can still go on and watch it. It's a 1-hour thing on YouTube. Jagged Little Pill, the Broadway show presents You Live, You Learn. It's Alanis Morissette and the cast of Jagged Little Pill put together this sort of like at-home edition. So they do various performances from the cast's homes. They also have little interviews with the cast members. Alanis does a song. And it's really wonderful. And they are raising money for some really great causes. And I highly recommend it, especially if you had wanted to see Jagged Little Pill on Broadway. Who knows when that opportunity is going to arise again, or frankly, if it will. We don't know what's going to happen with Broadway and live theater. So this is a nice opportunity to at least check it out and see what the cast brought together, because they really are delightful people, and the show is very powerful, and it talks about a lot of really important things. And then the other thing I just wanted to recommend, She Shreds magazine has put together a compilation of anti-racism resources for white and non-Black musicians. It's cross-applicable. You don't have to be a musician. Artists, people, anyone who wants to just do some pretty necessary work right now. You can go to She Shreds magazine and check out, it's a compilation of anti-racism resources for white and non-Black musicians. Everything from articles to podcasts to direct action to resources and organizations, books, all sorts of great information. So check that out. Hannah, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Illuminating us.
Yeah. Do you want people to come and find you?
Yeah. Come find me on Twitter at HKP McGregor, so we can talk about Jurassic Park exclusively.
The only paleobotanist in the world that matters is Ellie. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. We really appreciated it. And you can hang out with us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. You could email us at popthiscollective@gmail.com.
And it is so nice to have Andrea Gin with us each episode, but she's going to have to produce this and cut this all up. So, when you hear it, it's going to be a gem. You have no idea what else.
Yeah,
how much is on the cutting room floor right now.
You can't control that Hannah McGregor. AG's got so much work cut out for her.
Foul mouth. I've never quite. I mean, my goodness. Clutching my pearls here. Wow.
Thank you, Hannah. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.